So, are Fannie and Freddie necessary? Here to discuss that are Fred Glick, Principal Innovationist with U.S. Loans, Mortgage LLC and U.S. Spaces. Wow. And Dan Mitchell, Senior Fellow at the Cato Institute. Okay, I know who Cato is, but Fred, I don't know. What's all that laundry list of groups you are in?
It's just something to impress people by, that's all.
I'm impressed. Let me ask you this. I am encouraged by the fact that Geithner is saying the old days of Fannie and Freddie are gone, because I think that's absolutely necessary. We cannot go back to old Freddie and old Fannie. But the question remains, what do we do? What do you think, Fred? What do we do?
Well, I have kind of a different take on it. We have, so people know, HUD, FHA, VA, Fannie, Freddie, USDA, through the government. And they're all different agencies. They have different ideas of how to do mortgages. What my kind of solution is to put them all together into one government agency, but not to do anything but come up with an underwriting standard and say to the private markets, go ahead, underwrite loans under these standards. Get yourself a few dollars on every loan to put into an insurance pool so we don't have to pay out $150 gazillion later down the road, but come up with something that makes sense so that the market's happy, that there is this, and I hate to use the words implied government guarantee, but it somehow runs through and consolidate these 5 or 6 agencies into one to make it very small, but just have it so that people know in the back of their head, hey, worst case scenario, we're going to get some money out of an insurance pool, as opposed to just getting an implied full government guarantee. And then you can do it loan by loan instead of bank by bank.
Okay. Dan, I'm guessing you disagree.
Well, actually, I sort of agree. I also want to take all these different government agencies, consolidate them into one, but then I want to take them and dump them into Potomac, because one thing we should have learned from this entire farce is that government should not be in the business of subsidizing and underwriting and guaranteeing mortgages. Politicians inevitably feel this impulse to make it cheaper for people to buy homes, and that leads them to policies like Fannie and Freddie that create these lax underwriting standards and create housing bubbles. So get rid of all the nonsense and let the free market rule. Let personal responsibility be part of it.
In fairness, the lax underwriting standards were the product of Wall Street, not Fannie and Freddie.
When you knew that you could dump every bad loan onto Fannie and Freddie, there was a direct relationship.
You couldn't do that. You could not do that. In fact, if you look at the loans that Fannie and Freddie made, even in 2007, when they were trying to become aggressive in subprime market, the default rate on the non-Fannie and Freddie stuff is twice what the default rate was on the Fannie and Freddie stuff.
But Fannie and Freddie thought they had to jump into the market because they were losing so much market share.
Yes, they were losing market share. That's part of it. But there's also the part of it, which I'm sure Dan will point out if I don't, and I agree with him 100%, there's also the part of it where HUD would set goals for Fannie and Freddie to be involved in low-income or less than prime mortgages. I mean, if you talk to William Siren, who used to run Freddie, he will tell you that the conflicting goals of this quasi-private, quasi-government, I've got goals, but I've also got to do that. He said it made the job impossible.
Absolutely. I mean, I was on a panel in about 2005 with Freddie, where I was trying to tell them that they know the names of the companies and the originators who are giving them bad paper, and all they have to do is go after them. They looked at me like I had 7 heads, but they did push to me, we want you to make loans to people who have employee identification numbers and not just people with Social Security numbers.
So let me ask the question that why then do you not agree with Dan? Why do you want the government still involved?
Because the private sector, if it could be done, they would have done it already.
I don't believe
I've been talking with people. I mean, the underwriting standards are so insane from Fannie and Freddie. There's a comfort in Fannie and Freddie that the mortgage wholesalers and the banks, they don't really have to worry about it. So you're not giving them any incentive to go private. This whole system is like dealing with Cartman's mom. It's like, okay, honey, we'll just give you whatever you want. It's great. Just keep eating.
Dan, I sense we're kind of all moving together here.
Yeah, we're uniters, not dividers.
At least he admits it didn't make sense.
Let me go ahead and say something about what worries me about Geithner's comments. If he's simply saying we don't want to go back to the old Fannie and Freddie, but we want to have direct government provision and direct government guaranteeing, that's no different. I mean, we were on one bad road to a bad destination, and Geithner may simply be saying, let's continue to the same bad destination, but instead of going on, Route 95 up between New York and Washington, we're going to go on the New Jersey Turnpike or the Garden State Parkway. No, get the government out of the business altogether.
Yeah, well, I mean, the debate will be joined. And Fred and Dan, I'm sure you'll be part of it, and we thank you very much for
Thank you, Mark.